After work, as Andy showers her, a knock on his front door occurs. Hearing it's the student from earlier, he gestures to Claire to quiet down or else he has to kill her. In a subway, a woman starts checking her bags and tightening up some of its straps before entering the train. As she climbs up from a subway onto the surface of the busy streets of Berlin is a young Australian woman packed and ready for adventure. She gazes at the city of Berlin, in awe of the sight she is seeing, and continues to walk to her apartment. Upon reaching it, she starts unpacking her things and looks out her window in hopes of seeing things that can catch her attention on her first night in Berlin. She then decides to go on a rooftop, where she parties and drinks with fellow tourists until the morning break. After her fellow partygoers leave, she stays on the rooftop alone to gaze at and photograph the beautiful scenery she sees. At the same time, the sunrise descends on the eastern half of the German capital. She enters the new day by doing what any tourist would do, going around town and exploring the city's culture. As she is about to cross a street, she helps the man beside her, who clumsily drops his books. The man then sparks a conversation between them, with him asking questions about whether she's alone or not. Discovering that the man is a German English teacher for a sports school, she also reveals that she is fascinated by German democratic-era architecture, explaining her presence in the city. As they shake hands, they introduce each other as Claire and Andy. She then asks where the strawberries are from. But unfortunately, Andy experiences difficulty in trying to find the English word for the term he is looking for. And so he takes her there, which is his father's place. Strolling through the neighborhood, Claire's mother calls her, expressing to him that her mother's obsessed with her well-being. Andy then comments that his mother used to take him where they are, saying it's where he complicates life. Still, Claire corrects him by suggesting the correct word is contemplate. Finally, while walking, she tells him that her trip was because she was working as a real estate agent photographer, but instead booked the ticket for a different purpose, to experience life. He then drives Claire back to her place, where she invites him over. But he refuses, saying that he has to meet someone, so she brushes it off and explains that she also has other things to do. At that moment, he caresses the photographer's face before they say goodbye. On her bed, she checks the photos on her camera but realizes that in a few she's taken, Andy is standing on the streets. She smiles, and the following morning, instead of going to Dresden, she seeks Andy instead. Beginning to regret her decision as she fails to find the man she just met, she finally finds him in the same library she went to, reading the same book she had read the day prior. As Andy flips through the pages, she points out and describes her favorite artwork etched on the book. She reaches out for the page but holds his hand as he asks why she didn't leave. They then go to a cafe and begin to know each other more, where he observes Claire's photographs. He then tells her that she photographs the disappointment of GDR architecture while also expressing how suffocating it was even without the Berlin Wall. She then asks what suffocate is in German, which he demonstrates by strangling her, but by doing so, he finds a necklace, asking if it came from another man. She reprimands him by claiming it's from her mother. Andy once more drives her to his place, surrounded by abandoned apartments except his own, describing how Berlin itself is filled with these empty places. They intimately shared their night not long after, even though they had just met. In bed, Andy says he doesn't want this experience to end. She answers by explaining that each first is its finish, enumerating several recent experiences, including the one she's just committed with him. They both state their desires for one another, but she explicitly utters hers by wishing she could stay. When he leaves for work, she is puzzled to realize that she can't leave his place because she got locked in. Upon returning, she questions if Andy left her a key and if he locked her in. He discards this as a mere supposition, and they once more get intimate in the shower. Afterward, they leave to party together in a disco, both too in love to leave their sides until the following day. She then requests to be left a key as he prepares for work, and he does leave her a key on the dresser. However, before leaving, she noticed a photo of herself taken by Andy with her camera. It depicts a tattoo on her shoulder, with the German word for mine etched on it. She quickly runs to the bathroom and confirms the tattoo as she looks in the mirror. Using the key Andy left her, she discovers it doesn't even fit, so she attempts to open the windows, but they're locked, too. Scrambling for the charger for her phone, the SIM card was missing when she turned it on. So, without any other option, she opts to break the windows with a chair, only to end up not doing so because the windows are layered with plexiglass, or in other words, reinforced. He finally returns, and she tries to leave as he enters, only to be stopped as he realizes what she's trying to do. She begs him to open the door, but he sees his apartment all messed up and ruined by Claire's attempts to break out. And so he complains that she broke a newly bought chair while locking her in his domicile. She then begs again, this time for her phone's SIM card. He then threatens Claire that if she tries to break windows again, he'll be forced to board them up. Questioning the nature of her current situation, he reveals to her that on their first time having sex, he recounts how she wanted to stay. She then retracts her words by claiming people say things, especially when sleeping with each other. Finally, however, Andy starts calling her out for making her own choice of staying with him and not leaving for Dresden. As he prepares dinner, she attempts to beat him up while screaming. Still, Andy reminds her they're the only ones within the surrounding apartment complexes, making her wails for help irrelevant. The following day, Andy visits the lecture class whose professor is his father, Eric. They begin conversing with one another, and he then lets his father know that he's seeing someone, a tourist, specifically. Eric then asks about Natalie, the previous woman he used to be with, implying to his dad that she went back to Canada. His father then wonders about why all Andy's love interests are travelers. It is unknown to him that his son has a woman tied up and gagged back at his apartment. Arriving back at home, he tries to comfort his hostage with romantic paraphernalia, only for her to recoil in disgust. As she is unbound while showering, she finds strands of blonde hair in the bathtub drain and is appalled upon inferring that she's not his first victim. After exfoliating, Andy takes more photos of her in lewd situations, making her feel more victimized. After the photo shoot, the psychopath tries to bind his captive onto a mattress once more. Still, she insists that there's nowhere for her to go, deeming her bondage unnecessary. As she finds ways to escape her circumstance, she frantically searches for anything until she finds a screwdriver underneath a sofa. Sometime after, when Andy returns from his job after being agitated by his colleagues, he finds Claire having difficulty trying to finish a puzzle he gave her at the dinner table. When he tries to assist her, she stabs the screwdriver into his right hand, grabs his keys, and tries to panic herself out of the building. Reaching the gate, however, it was locked yet again. When she had it forcefully opened, Claire's fingers were broken through the gate and slammed into them by an Andy with a torn palm. Both hands bloodied, he cracks her bones further, delivering her into a fainted shock, and carries her back into his place. Visiting his father as they play chess, the old man demands that Andy visits his mother while asking what has happened to his son's right hand. Andy lies about it, claiming that a chisel tore through it while he was renovating. Eric tries to recommend to his son someone who can renovate in his stead, but he denies his offer and asserts that they go back into playing chess. In his school's gym, he administers his class by accomplishing exercises and eyes one of his female students doing stretches and all sorts of calisthenics. He also looks back in his direction. While all this was happening, Claire tried to lockpick her way out with a paperclip. After work, as Andy showers her, a knock on his front door occurs. Hearing it's the student from earlier, he gestures to Claire to quiet down or else he has to kill her. Addressed as Franca, her presence in his apartment is questioned by him, who is let in by a man tending coal, inferring that his student followed him to his residence. Franca sees Claire in her towel while she converses with her teacher, but he rebuffs her when she asks who the woman is by stating that Claire is his girlfriend. He also threatens to reprimand her behavior of following him on the premise that she leans attracted to her teacher. As Andy leaves her for his father during the holidays and doesn't return for an unknown amount of time, Claire grows crazed upon being isolated with the apartment's power cut off due to his unpaid bills. One morning, at his father's place, Andy discovers that Eric is dead. Upon his return, he reveals the sad news to Claire, and she somehow consoles him, to the point of both being intimate with one another again, despite his transgressions to her. As they bond enough to make it seem like their relationship is functional, he gifts Claire his dad's dog for the season, and she appreciates his gift. However, he then starts to grow jealous of Claire spending too much time with the dog and ends up killing it while explaining to her that the dog ran away. Unable to stand her anymore, he drives her outside for the first time since he locked her in. Unbeknownst to Claire, he plans to kill her in the woods with an axe. However, two boys are in the area. When she begs one of the boys to call for the police, the language barrier prevents any understanding. Luckily, Andy's attempt at murder was halted anyway due to the presence of witnesses as the boy's mother arrived. The year is about to end, and again he leaves Claire alone to participate in a New Year's party at his coworkers. During this time, she finds 2 photo albums, one containing all the photos Andy took of her since she was bound the first time, and another that includes the pictures of Natalie in the same circumstances, the previous woman Andy abducted. At the party, Andy is met with enmity by his colleagues as his erratic behavior disturbs them. On his way home, he meets a French tourist he immediately falls in love with. Meanwhile, a person carrying a flashlight is in the apartment complex. Claire finally found someone who could help her after so many days had gone by, so she screamed as loudly as she could, luring the man into Andy's apartment. However, as the man is about to let Claire out, Andy unfortunately arrives, beats the man to death with a crowbar, and places the blame for his death onto Claire. They both dispose of and set the man's body on fire in a dumpster as she watches her chance of leaving this hellscape in flames. Sometime later, he tells her to pack her things because he alleges that the apartment is getting fumigated the next day. At the same time, he tends to his class's workload. Claire then sees this as an opportunity, so she intentionally burns her left hand with the gas stove and forces Andy to grab the ointment from the bathroom. While running water in her hand, she uses this window of time to acquire a workbook that Andy was grading and slips right back once he leaves for work the following day. As he lends the workbooks to his students, Franca opens her own but soon finds a picture of Claire bound and suppressed, so she excuses herself from the class. She accidentally drops the photo, which was found by one of her male classmates, who passes it around with his peers until it eventually reaches Andy, horrified by this revelation. Realizing Franca has not come back, he jolts back to his apartment. However, his car gets stuck in traffic, forcing him to go back on foot. Upon his return, he sees Franca's bicycle and a metal box that was dropped from the upper level, which concealed some of Claire's possessions and the keys to his room. As he tries to find the 2 girls, he makes his presence known by throwing against a closet the crowbar he killed a man with. As he goes upstairs, Franca looks from a cupboard she's hiding in, to which Claire calls out to Andy from below to lure him away from Franca. He looks for Claire in his room, and as he finds the photo album he made of her on the floor, he hears her voice again. This time from the hallway, and to his surprise, Claire locks him inside the very room she was locked in for so long. Despite everything, he still has the nerve to tell her to let him out. Ignoring him, she quickly rescues Franca from upstairs and is finally set free from the clutches of a madman who couldn't let her go. The movie ends with Claire in a cab, roaming the streets of Berlin for the first time since her capture. At the same time, her captor is stuck in his apartment, locked in against his will, contemplating his life.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this to help the channel out. Have a nice day.